How is it possible that a command born in the desert, in an era without computers, statistics, or modern economic theory, holds the most accurate solution to humanity's greatest crisis today? Today, 1% of the world's population controls over 40% of global wealth. It is not because they are smarter. It is not because they work 40 times harder. Economists have a name for this phenomenon. They call it the Pareto distribution, the iron law of mathematics, stating that in any economic system, without intervention, wealth will always flow upward, always, without exception. For the last 200 years, Western civilization has tried to fight it. Progressive taxes, cross-subsidies, social security funds, market regulations. One by one, these solutions were born, implemented, and then proven insufficient. But there is one system that has never been revised, never updated, never requiring emergency meetings of finance ministers. That system was born 14 centuries ago. And modern science has only just begun to prove that it works mathematically. In 2022, in a computational laboratory, a group of researchers conducted an unusual experiment. They were not studying the stock market. They were not calculating inflation. They were building a world. Using simulation software called NetLogo, they created a virtual society. Thousands of digital economic agents interacting, trading, borrowing, and accumulating wealth, just like the real world. Then they let it run, without any intervention. The result was always the same. Wealth flows. It concentrates. It piles up. Separate research, even projects, that if this trend continues, 0.01% of the population will control over 70% of the world's wealth. This is not a theory. This is mathematics, and mathematics knows no mercy. Then the researchers inserted one variable into that system, one small number, 2.5%. From every accumulation of wealth above a certain threshold, 2.5% is automatically flowed to those below that threshold. There is no negotiation. There are no exceptions. There is no lobbying. The result left the researchers stunned. In a very short interval of time, the wealth distribution that once followed the Pareto curve extreme, steep, inhumane, changed shape. It approached a normal distribution, more equitable, and, unexpectedly, the total wealth of society actually increased. Scientists call this result redistributive equilibrium, a point where equality and growth occur together, rather than in opposition. 2.5%. 14 centuries ago, before NetLogo, before computers, before the word economy was in any dictionary, that number was already set. But before we get too amazed, there is a more unsettling question. Is Islam the only one that reached this conclusion? The honest answer? No. And that is exactly where the most surprising part begins. Thousands of years before Islam, in the wheat fields of Palestine, Jewish farmers were already setting aside 1/10 of their harvest as a mandatory duty for the hungry. Not as a gift, as a legal obligation. They called it Tzedakah, and that word, if translated honestly, does not mean charity. Tzedakah means justice. Then, 14 centuries ago, Islam arrived with a more structured system, not only mandating 2.5% of wealth, but building institutions to manage it. During the time of Caliph Umar bin Khattab in 634 AD, the Baitul Mal was established, the first state treasury, explicitly designed for all citizens, Muslim and non-Muslim alike. 5 centuries later, a Jewish philosopher named Maimonides wrote something that feels strikingly modern. He compiled 8 distinct levels of charity. The highest level is not just giving money. It is providing capital, employment, or partnerships until the recipient no longer needs help from anyone. 3 distinct civilizations, 3 completely different eras, yet one shared conclusion: that wealth has a social function that cannot be left to individual goodwill. It must be guaranteed. It must be mandatory. 5 centuries later, a Jewish philosopher named Maimonides wrote something that feels strikingly modern. A chancellor named Otto von Bismarck built what Western history books call the world's first national social security system. Health insurance in 1883. Workplace accident insurance in 1884. Old age pension funds in 1889. The Western world celebrated it as a civilizational breakthrough. But if we read deeper into the historical record, Bismarck's motivation was not just as he built it out of fear. Socialist movements were rising across Europe. Workers were beginning to organize. Revolution threatened, and Bismarck, a true conservative, chose to give a little to avoid losing everything. Social Security was born from political calculation, not from the conviction that the poor deserve more. Compare this to the Baitul Mal that stood 1,250 years earlier. It was not born from the threat of revolution, not from labor group lobbying, not from electoral calculations. It was born from a command ranked equal to prayer. One of the 5 pillars sustaining a person's entire faith. One was born of fear. One was born of conviction. And that difference in origin, to this day, reflects the difference in how they both work. There is a technical detail in the Zakat system that is rarely discussed, but this detail perfectly demonstrates how seriously this system was designed. Nisab, the minimum wealth threshold requiring one to pay Zakat, set not in currency, not in dinars, not in dirhams, not in dollars. Nisab is set in weight of gold, 87 grams. That number was established in the 7th century AD. Today, in 2026, that number is still exactly the same, 87 grams. Now, imagine if the Nisab was set in dollars in 624 AD. What would its value be today? Or in Umayyad dinars, whose value was manipulated by rulers? Or in the pound sterling that has lost over 90% of its purchasing power over the last 200 years. All currencies that have ever existed on this earth have one common enemy: inflation. One by one, their value erodes. Empires collapse. Their currencies become the trash of history. The Byzantine dinar, the Abbasid dirham, the Dutch guilder, the German mark, which required 1 million notes just to buy 1 loaf of bread in 1923. all of them destroyed, but not gold. For 14 centuries, every time the price of goods rose, the price of gold followed. Every time a currency weakened, the value of gold in that currency increased. Gold does not store value. Gold is value itself. Modern economists call this strategy real asset anchoring, pegging standards to real assets rather than their nominal representation. A strategy the modern financial world only understood after being hit repeatedly by monetary crises, from the Great Depression of 1929 to the 1997 Asian crisis. But the Zakat system had already done it 14 centuries ago, not because its founders were brilliant economists, but because the one who designed it never makes a miscalculation. A study observing the response of Muslim communities in Pakistan, Egypt, and Morocco during the COVID-19 pandemic found something interesting. When governments ran out of budgets, when modern social security systems were overwhelmed, society turned to Zakat. Not because there were no other options, but because the system was already there. It was already running. No need for emergency activation because it was never turned off. 14 centuries, 3 civilizations, 1 computer simulation in a modern lab. Everything points in the same direction. We live in an era where humans are capable of sending rockets to Mars, mapping the entire human genome, and building artificial intelligence that defeats chess grandmasters. Yet we still fail to distribute wealth fairly among 8 billion people sharing the same planet. Meanwhile, 14 centuries ago, under the scorching sun of the Hijaz, a system was revealed that answered that question, not as an economic theory to be tested, not as a social experiment to be evaluated, as a command. And perhaps, just perhaps, the reason we keep failing is not because we lack data, not because we lack technology, but because we still haven't been serious enough about reading what was already written for us 14 centuries ago.